Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communication for the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. And today I am joined by
Terri Welch with Paint and Fun Ceramics.
Welcome, Terri. So I've started getting in the habit that you're one of a few people who've had multiple episodes to the point that we're now at 3. And most people I ask that, what does that success mean to you? And then I also ask on that next episode, has it changed? I've started asking on this 3rd episode more, when you're looking at businesses, what to you looks like success from an outside perspective? Are there any kind of tells that you see something and you go, oh, they must be doing pretty well, or anything like that?
I think that being a business owner, I can see it from both sides. So I don't always jump to the conclusion that just because a business looks successful, that it is. I know for myself, my business struggles during certain times of the year. And even though we look really successful and we keep that going throughout the year and we keep that positive attitude, doesn't always mean that that's the thing.
Right.
So, outward appearances don't always reflect what's going on.
Are there any times you see stuff that you think, oh, they're doing that, they must be having a hard time? Is there anything along those lines that you kind of see? To me, it's when I see someone outwardly projecting how successful they are that I start thinking, okay, but are they truly that successful, or is it just about they're trying to make that image seem like they're successful?
I kind of agree with that. I think if you're too over the top with it, then maybe that's a sign that you're trying to manifest that rather than just rolling with what's happening.
Right. Something I talked with Christina on a recent time and was we talked about when you're marketing and you're setting up your schedule and all of those things, that you're doing it in a way that so you're not scrambling with your marketing. So we talked about like when you can tell that people are coming across and it's like, oh, I really, really need you to buy this. And I bring this up because I stopped by the shop this weekend, saw that y'all were planning out your schedule. So how far out do you plan your schedule? How do you build out your marketing in that way? And how do you know that you are setting yourself up to be not necessarily the most successful that you can be, but the better planned that you can be, I guess?
Well, it took a while to realize that I needed to plan out as far in advance as I can. So I try to stay a quarter ahead. So our calendar is planned out all the way through Christmas. That way we can start pushing our marketing and showcasing some of the special things that we have coming up without stressing.
Yeah.
Because once we do go into our busy season, which typically starts about the first part of October, as the weather starts to cool down, people start to look for more indoor activities, and we're the most fun place in the NRV to be. So people come in and they're looking for their holiday decorations, whether it be Halloween or Christmas. So we try to stay as far ahead as possible. And I just look to trends, what's happening, what's going to be big. I mean, Beetlejuice is just being released. So, of course, we have a Beetlejuice class. Grinch is always popular. So we've got a class featuring the Grinch. So this, we just try to keep it fun and light and stay ahead of the game so that we're not, I used to scramble because as an artist, I'm probably one of the least organized people. Thank goodness I have an amazing manager that makes sure that I stay on track.
Right. And I feel like the opposite can be true too, where you can plan too far out and then you're planned so much that you're not able to really adjust to the trends and the things like that. I mean, I've seen people that have said, oh yeah, I've got my next 12 months planned and I'm sticking to it. But then when something comes out that adjusts or irritates isn't the right word, but really has an impact, they're not able to make that adjustment on the fly. So for you, when you've seen this stuff, was it a conscious decision earlier in the year where you were like, oh, Beetlejuice is coming out at this time, we should do something? Or was it more of you saw that start to pick up and then you responded?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, we saw that it was coming out, and we try to look ahead to some of those pop culture things that are going on and try to stay on trend with that. For me, I write an article for our industry magazine, and it is on trends. So it helps me to stay ahead of things because I have to provide that article for our industry magazine, which helps all of the other people that are part of the Paint Your Own Pottery family.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about that magazine, because I find magazines are always a really interesting marketing tool, in the sense that so many times it can either be like an advertisement. Thinking about our chamber magazine, we have an advertisement or we have an article. For you, you wrote this article and it was more about just the education for the others, not really so much as advertising for yourself, right?
Correct.
But then when you're able to come back around, for those of us here that aren't getting this magazine, it becomes more of a marketing tool that you can say, hey, look at this almost insider thing that you can look at and know that I'm being considered an expert, I guess. I don't really know what the term would be in the painting. I'm the ceramics expert for trends. But so how do you incorporate that into what you're doing as well? Are you thinking part of the year you're looking at, okay, I need to do it now because I'm giving it to others? Or is it more these things start to come up, you've been asked to do it? How did you get into that, I guess, is what I'm...
So my passion is sharing with others. That's why I do what I do. I truly love helping other people learn how art can be incorporated into their life, how it can help them connect with other people, relieve stress, all of those things. But as a teacher and as someone who likes to do those things, I also like to help others in my industry. I think it helps me be a better leader to my team, and it helps me understand the overall business better. And being on trend, I actually just kind of got recruited. We all in the Paint Your Own Pottery world, we follow each other. And we take ideas from other studios with permission, of course. And people were starting to borrow a lot of my ideas, and they were calling me on a regular basis saying, hey, I saw this on your website. Can I do this too? And then our association, which is the Contemporary Ceramic Studio Association, or CCSA, they reached out to me and they said, hey, we see that your calendar is planned out far in advance, and you're doing this, and that. Can you share with us what you're doing? And then it turned into me writing that magazine article. And so now I write an article twice a year, and I'm also responsible for putting together new projects that can be shared in the magazine with all of our CCSA members. And there's probably about 2,000 members across the whole world.
Oh, cool.
We have PYOP studios in Europe and Asia and in islands and you name it, they're all over.
And how did you come across that information? Because I feel like those kinds of associations exist no matter what industry you're in, but I don't know that that's something that everyone takes advantage of. So how did you find that? How did you end up there? Any suggestions for others looking?
Absolutely. Whatever industry you're in, Google. I mean, that's where everything is. And that's what I did. I just Googled associations for ceramics, and I found ICANN, which is the International Ceramics Studios Network. Then I found the CCSA, and I researched each of those. And I decided to join the CCSA because it's more geared toward the paint your own pottery. The ICANN and some of the other ceramics networks that are out there are geared more towards the clay side of things or the wheel throwing. And although we do that, we have the wheel throwing in our studio, it's not our main focus. I love it. It's not my forte. I'm not really good at it. But now clay hand building, I just joined another association called Clay Share, and they focus on hand building, and I'm just in love with that. It's amazing the things that you can make out of just a flat slab of clay.
And how do you kind of vet that process and making sure that they are legitimate organizations. I feel like I've seen that sometimes where I'll be searching for something and something on the outside may look really legit when you've just done a Google search, but when I start diving more into it, I get a little bit of an odd feeling. How do you make sure when you're going through that process that you're signing up for something worthwhile?
So I think it's important that you reach out to others in your industry, which is what I did. And I've made some really, really good friends with other studio owners all across the country through our CCSA conventions. You know, we meet and we talk and we share ideas and become friends, and we maintain those long distance relationships. And when we need something, you know, there are certain people in the industry that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a question about this. Can you help me? And if they don't know the answer, they know who does. And so it's really cool to me that I've become one of those people for other people in the industry, but then I still have those that I reach out to as well.
And it seems incredibly collaborative because, like you said, you've reached out and had that conversation with people of like, I want to do this, borrowing. Do you ever have any instances where you see something that's more combative, and what kind of impact does that have on you and the industry at large, do you think?
Honestly, with the PYOP industry, the only thing that I've seen is collaboration and friendships, and I think it's because most of us we're not in competition with each other.
Right.
There's a huge span of distance between paint your own pottery ceramic studios, and it's really because it's what the market will bear. And most people understand if you're in a very small market like the Christiansburg, New River Valley area, it's not going to support a whole lot of those types of businesses.
Right. And so with where you're located, because as I was walking through the mall this weekend, that's something that I pointed out to my parents that I really enjoyed is you've got the Children's Museum across the way. You've got you almost on opposite sides of the mall. Do you think that has an impact on how much like walk traffic you have for children and those kind of things for your business? Or would you say more of your business comes from outside of that?
No, I think it helps the business. Obviously, having that walk-in traffic, it's a little slower in the summertime, but as we get closer to the holiday season, that foot traffic picks up in the mall. And so that definitely helps the business. We get a lot of people that go through Dick's, and we're right outside of Dick's Sporting Goods, so they see us. There's a lot of students at New River Community College, and when they come out that door directly across the hall from us, they're like, oh, if they're brand new students and they don't know that we're there, they're like, oh, wow, and they come in and check us out.
Do you think, and this is kind of going back to Children's Museum, because I know that to a degree they are a tourism draw for young families. Do you think more increased children-based activities in the mall would benefit you in that way? Or do you think it would start to detract from how many people walk into your shop because, quote unquote, there might not be anything else to do?
Well, I think that anytime we can draw people into the mall, there's a lot of small businesses there. And anytime we can draw people there for whatever reason, I think it's great for the overall economy in our market, in our area, because those small businesses need people. And that, we just had Touch a Truck out there. That attracted a lot of people. Did it take away business for the day? Probably, but it brought people into the mall that may not have been there in a while and may not realize what cool shops and cool places there are inside.
Right. And what kind of play does social media bring in terms of your process? Because I think about every time I'm on the Everything Christiansburg group or something like that, I'll see a lot of people say, what's fun to do over the weekend? And I think I see Heather post all the time being like, come to Paint and Fun, come to Paint and Fun. So how much of that are you focused on actually putting out like boosted content versus just that natural, almost word of mouth referral based type work?
We try to do as much organic marketing as we can. You know, we ask our guests that come in and have a good time if they'll post a review for us or if they'll just take a picture of themselves having a good time at Paint and Fun Ceramics. Heather she's very active on social media and that's part of her job. So she sees that kind of stuff. I don't see it quite as often because I have too much other things.
Absolutely.
I can't be on social media as much. But when I am on there, you know, I put that I'm going to our events because typically I'm the one teaching them. And so that helps organically for people, especially my friends, to be able to see what's going on. And hopefully they're good enough friends that they're going to share that and say, hey, you know, this is what Terry's got going on.
Right. Yeah. I think social media it's a double-edged sword at times because sometimes that can go really well. Sometimes it can't. You mentioned the like reviews and that piece. So I have information I want to share, but first I want to get your thoughts. Like, how do you go about asking for those reviews? Is it something where you've got a QR code up in the store and people scan? Is it an email that goes out afterwards? Is it more of a face-to-face interaction? How do y'all do that?
It's a little bit of everything. I mean, we have a little QR code even in our bathroom that says, hey, did you have a good time?
I like that.
Leave us a review. And then we have a disclaimer that if they didn't, to come speak with us personally so that we can address it and take care of it right away. You know, we're human, so we make mistakes every now and again, hopefully not too many, but when we do, we want to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I mean, like you said, everybody's human. A mistake's going to happen at some point. It's not possible that it won't, but owning up to it and having that real fast is a really good thing. No, what I wanted to share is I only learned this recently that specifically when you're looking at Google reviews, it's actually better for people to give that review when they're not in your location. Because if too many reviews come in at your location within a certain amount of time, Google will stop them from being posted because it sees it almost as like you are spamming trying to get your ranking up or something along those lines. I've seen it that it could be if it's connected to your Wi-Fi, but I've also seen that because Google's so location based, that it's better if you send out an email or talk to someone and try to get them to review not in your store. Though obviously that's not always the easiest time. I mean, I know the minute I walk out of somewhere, it's immediately out of my brain. So I get why that draw is to get them to review while in the store. But I learned that recently. I was like, oh, that is very impactful. I
think even though we ask people when they're in the store, I think most of our reviews do come once they get home afterwards. And a lot of times it's after they pick up their piece. So when they come in and paint, they don't think about writing that review, but then they come back and they're excited all over again because they see how gorgeous their piece turned out. And they were thinking when they left, it wasn't going to be so hot. And so they get that wow factor. And we have a little thank you card that we put in our bags. And on the back of it, it has that QR code. And again, ask for that review. So,
and that's so true. I feel like specifically with art-based things, that sometimes you just need the time away from it to appreciate it. I know, I mean, as much as I do the photography and all that, there's so many times that I'll take photos, and then when I sit down to like go through the album and look through it, I think to myself, man, I'm the worst photographer in the world. And then it's once I'm actually done with the process and can appreciate it, it's like, okay, all right, maybe I was too close to it at the time. All right. Real quick, I want to touch on your team and what that is there, because I believe the next episode we're going to try to have Heather out on the podcast. But can you tell me a little bit about your team at Paint and Fun and what that looks like? And that way, because I feel like a lot of our members know Terri and some of them know Heather, but beyond that, even I have no clue. So could you tell us a little about it?
Well, our team is very fluid. Heather and I are the staples. So we work very, very well together. And so she's the manager. She runs the day-to-day operations. I do most of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I teach a lot of the classes. But we have Crystal. Crystal is super fun and bubbly. If you come in, you know her immediately because she has a huge smile on her face. She greets everyone the second they come in. And she loves dad jokes. So she's just super fun. And then we have Lily. Lily just started with us not too long ago, and she's still learning everything that's going on. We have Brigitte. Brigitte is one of our wheel throwing instructors, and she's super chill and laid back. She's a very, very good instructor and can help people create a bowl on their very first try. Saroja is another one of our wheel instructors. And oh my goodness, she's just a hoot. She's a lot of fun. She really makes it exciting when you come in and you learn to throw on the wheel, and she shows you super easy, fun techniques that allow you to create something your very first time on the wheel. So even though we call it a try it class, you come in and you create it that first time, which is super fun. So I'm really pleased with the wheel instructors that we have. And then I just recently hired a young woman named Gail. And Gail is going to be my backroom supervisor, basically taking care of the kiln. She's going to load all the goodies and dip them. And that's one of the things that takes a lot of time. People don't realize. They're like, oh, can I pick up my piece tomorrow? But when we load the kiln, it sometimes takes, well, first, we've got to let your piece dry overnight. Because if we dip it too soon, your colors are going to bleed. And we don't want that. Dipping it is just putting it with a clear glaze. The glazes that we use for people to paint with don't require that. It's an extra step that we take, especially because we have a lot of children that miss places. And they don't get the glaze everywhere. So by dipping it, it puts a clear coat on there so everything is glazed as it should be. And then we have to let that dry. And then when we load the kiln, we typically have anywhere from 100 to 160 pieces in the kiln at one time, which takes a couple hours to load.
It's got to be a huge kiln.
It is.
Oh, wow.
It's very large. We call her Dolly. So, all of us in the industry, we all name our kilns. And we named ours Dolly because she works from 9 to 5 and looks good in silver, and she's pretty hot. So...
Oh, that's awesome.
But then once she's loaded, we have to test it. We have to make sure that the exhaust is working properly, that it's venting properly, and then we can start her up. And once we start her up, it's about 8 to 10 hours, depending on how full the kiln is, for it to get up to temperature. And we have 3 different kiln loads. So we have the glaze, the paint your own pottery, what people come in and paint right off our shelves. That's a glaze firing. That goes to about 1,836 degrees. Then we have bisque firing. So anytime somebody comes in and builds something out of clay, whether it's on the wheel or hand built, we fire that before it can be glazed. So that's a different load. Right. And that goes up to about 1,970 degrees. And then last but not least, we have stoneware. And stoneware is that kind of the rugged, heavy-duty ceramics. And stoneware has to be fired to almost 2,700 degrees.
Oh, wow. It's a huge jump.
Yeah, that's a big jump. But that's what vitrifies stoneware. That's what makes it where it's impervious to water. And so it's dishwasher, microwave, and oven safe.
And all of these are things that have to happen with somebody in the building, or is it something that you're able to leave overnight?
I typically leave it. We start it in the evenings and let it run overnight, so all that heat is not. And actually, even at 2,700 degrees, the back room never gets above 80. Oh, okay. So it's vented really well. It's very safe. I could actually use a dryer vent. But I put in a much more sturdy vent and vented out the roof of the building. But we put a camera on it, and I can check it throughout the night. And fortunately, knock wood, Dolly's been good. She does her job. And
it's one of those things, kind of like a microwave. You're just like, this amount of time, and then when it's done, it cools itself off. Okay.
It cuts off. And that's what takes the longest. It only takes 8 to 10 hours to get up to temperature. But for it to cool down enough so that we can open it and take those pieces out is probably another 24 to 30 hours.
Wow. So are you firing like once, twice a week then?
Usually 3 times.
Okay. All right. Wow. And so, yeah, I mean, she's going to have her work cut out for her managing all of that, because that seems like obviously a role all in itself. So,
yes.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I want to talk to you about team building exercises. And yeah.
Sounds good.
Which are you? A painter? A sculptor? Well, at Paint and Fun Ceramics, you're the master designer, and your creative vision becomes a reality with the mediums they provide. You can paint your own pottery with over 1,000 different pottery pieces and more than 200 glaze colors to color your masterpiece to life. Once kiln fired, they become super shiny and food safe. If you're in a rush, check out their make and take painting options as well. Also available are wheels and clay hand building courses. Take a hand building or pottery throwing class with them. Both classes include clay and professional instructions, and wheel classes include wheel time. Private and public bookings are available. For more information, visit paintandfunceramics.com. That's paintandfunceramics.com. Back to the episode. All right. We are back, and so, yeah, I want to talk, because we had a conversation recently in Case where you mentioned that as the summer's going back, kids are back in school. Now is more of the time where you're focusing on things like team building exercises, team building workshops. So tell me a little bit about what those look like, and then I want to break down a little bit more on how you think the different types can really benefit different places of business.
Well, what I like to do is first learn what that business's goal is. Is it just to come out and have a good time together and just do something outside of the office? Or is it really to get to know each other much better? So that'll kind of guide what kind of team building opportunities that I offer. So once I find that out, then I might offer, like, for example, for a team that they really don't know each other too well, but everybody wants them to get to know each other better, we might recommend the mug switch. And that's where it's so fun. We pass out this anonymous little questionnaire. It has like 5-6 questions on it that are all generic. It's nothing super personal, but it's things like, if money were no object, where would your best vacation spot be? Do you have a pet? Do you enjoy, what do you do as a hobby? Those kinds of things. And then we fold them all up, we mix them up, and everybody chooses one. As long as they don't choose their own,
right?
Then they create a mug based on what's on that form. And then by the end of, and we ask questions, and we laugh and joke, and everybody kind of says, well, I feel sorry for so-and-so if they get this mug. And, we laugh about it but we're there to help.
Right.
So they're not really on their own creating this mug, but we'll give them ideas and tools to help them. And then by the end, everybody on your team has created a mug for someone else on your team. Which really helps connect them.
Right, but completely anonymously until, of course,
the end.
Exchange piece.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And is it just mugs that you do that with, or do you have other?
No.
Okay.
We could do bowls, plates. We could do,
I was wondering about like ornaments around Christmas, if that's something you do, or any holiday really. But I guess maybe with the ornaments, you might be a little more limited than with a mug. Yeah,
the mug gives you a nice surface to work with, and it's typically a flat, although it's rounded for a cup, but it's a really easy surface to work with in terms of creating a design. But we have some flat ornaments and things like that would work, just depending on, the team's budget and those kinds of things.
And so that's the version where people are coming out more and trying to like learn more about one another. What do you do if it is something of, we want basically a fun day out in the office? Is that a different workshop entirely? How do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some groups, they just want to come out and they just want to spend time together. And so we will ask them what their budget is, and we'll break that down per person. And so typically the employees can come in and choose whatever they like within that budget. And then they just sit down and paint, and they get instruction from us, but we don't hover. We try to give them their space so that they can laugh and joke and talk amongst one another. And when they have questions, we're there. We show them all the tools. We show them different techniques, give them ideas.
Cool.
So they could do that, or they could, if somebody is really wanting to get into that relaxation with art, I always stress the clay hand building. For me, it's like you go into a totally different world, and you're playing in mud. So, you feel like a kid again out there building, castles in mud and sand castles or whatever. But you're creating something functional because we use stoneware clay, which means that once it's fired and glazed, it's microwave, oven, and dishwasher safe. So you're creating something super useful and not just decorative.
Are there any other team building things that you've done in the past that stick out to you? I know, for example, your case group has done a lot of socials and things like that. I know you've got stuff at Zeppeli's that happens pretty often that I guess that isn't necessarily team building, but is there anything along those lines that you do for teams as well?
Absolutely. We offer the canvas paintings, and we have a gallery of different designs that we can offer. And then we draw it out for you. You don't have to be an artist. It's almost like paint by number. Oh, and, cool. We have an instructor, usually me, that will guide you step by step, tell you which brush to use, what paint to put it in, how to put that paint on the canvas. So we just make it super easy and super fun.
Is there a certain day of the week or a time during the day that these are more geared towards, or is it kind of when fits both schedules?
We try to work with our groups so that they can, so that we're pretty flexible. But we really love having folks come in during the daytime because now that the kids are back in school, it's very quiet during the day. Most of our groups, when they book something on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for anywhere from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., they're the only group in our store. And that gives them not only a private function, but it gives them, lots of space and lots of opportunity for communication, and it doesn't get too loud in there.
Yeah. This seems to me like something that would be really great for a company to use as a retreat while they're working on their next strategic direction or things. But I say that because I'm someone, if I don't have something to be working on while I listen to people talk, my brain just goes away. So this seems like the perfect thing that I could sit there and be painting and listening and doing while also thinking about it very creatively and what I want to do in the future. So that's cool. Outside of the team building exercises, tell me a little bit about the other events and things that you do. Because I know I see all the time where, like I said, Zeppeli's will have stuff. It is Zeppeli's, right?
Yes.
Okay. The other day I heard someone call it Zeppoli's, and I was like, I think you're wrong, but I'm not going to correct you. So anyone listening, it is in fact Zeppeli's. But tell me a little bit about those and how they differ from the team building.
Well, those are partnerships with other small local businesses, which I really love doing. It helps our business and it helps their business. It keeps everything local. And it gives people the opportunity to paint and sip. Whereas, in the mall, we don't have an ABC license, so it's no alcohol there.
Right.
But I've had lots of people ask me, hey, a glass of wine would make this a little easier and a little more relaxed. And so that's why I partnered with Zeppeli's, with Bellevue Estate Winery, with Eastern Divide Brewing. As a matter of fact, with Eastern Divide, we have Oktoberfest coming up, and we're going to paint stoneware beer steins. Cool. So everybody can design their own beer stein. Those tickets are going fast. We partnered with Zeppeli's for 2 different types of events. We do Monet and Mimosas on one Sunday a month, and that's a canvas painting, and it includes a mimosa, which is super fun. And then on one Thursday night a month, we do kind of a DIY project. So next month we are doing, I'm trying to remember. Oh, doormats. We're gonna make everybody can make their own personalized doormat. So that's super fun. And then the following month in October, we're going to do stoneware charcuterie boards. So you can make your own personal little cheese board.
That's really cool. I love the Stein. Everybody that is going, please, as you go in, talk about how great it is. And then also mention, hey, Eastern Divide, you should be chamber members, because I'd love to do some more chamber events and things out there.
I know. That would be great if they would join the chamber.
Hey, Eastern Divide, join the chamber. So I love that. And how do you go about picking out those things? Is it just something that it's like, I think this will be fun and you do it? Or is that where you go back to looking at the trends and the other things that have been done by other paint your own pottery places? You know, is it a mix of the two?
It's definitely a mix.
Yeah.
You know, I have my own ideas about what I think will work, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I collaborate with the person who's in charge. For example, at Zeppeli's, it's Mariah. She's the marketing director there. And so we collaborated, and some of her ideas were the doormat. She was like, can you do this? Well, yeah. So if you're not sure if it's art related and you're not sure if we offer it, just ask me, because if I don't offer it, I probably will.
I know this is never a topic that people like to really focus on, but I think there's a lot to be learned by failure. And you mentioned specifically there's times that it hasn't worked out. Has there ever been a certain item or thing that you thought, oh, this is going to be gangbusters, and then it just went the complete opposite way?
It happens a lot with my painting selections when it comes to canvas. Some things that I think are just so beautiful, I think other people maybe look at them and say, oh my God, that's too hard. Even though I know it's not, and I can show you it's not if you give me the opportunity. But then, you know, people don't sign up for it. And so it is kind of disappointing. But then, I just try to find what people in this area like, because what somebody in New York City or out West, what they want to do is not going to work in our market.
Yeah, and there's so much of that is, I mean, like I said, art is subjective. You know, you've got that piece, but also the intention. I mentioned this to Christina. I'm a big believer that intention never really matters. What matters is the perception that comes from it. And so, yeah, I can see where you have that inside knowledge where you're like, this is not difficult, it's this. But if someone sees it and they just go, oh, no, it's difficult, I'm going to write it off. So it's unfortunate. I just wondered, because like as I go into your shop and I see the stuff on the shelves, I wonder, you know, are there thousands of Scooby-Doo portraits that are in the back or something like that, or those clay items? Because I never would have thought about the Grinch or anything like that being really popular, but it makes sense. Do you do a lot of like Santa Claus mugs and those kind of things closer to?
We do. We do Santa Claus mugs. The gnome mugs are super popular. And then people want to come in and do other pop culture things like the Hocus Pocus theme. You know, so we have silk screens and we have design options to help make, you know, your piece into Hocus Pocus themed or Nightmare Before Christmas themed. We get a lot of that.
And is the majority of the stuff in your shop, I know you were talking about the building of the clay and all of that, but I see a lot of those items that are all the exact same. Is that like wholesalers, just you buy, you know, a batch of 200 or something?
Yes. So with the paint your own pottery industry has really evolved over time. Back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there were little shops everywhere, and they had molds and they poured their own molds. And that is so labor intensive. And it is, in order to have enough product, you really have to have a whole production room. So what happened over time is that large companies design these things. So they actually build it first out of clay, and then they create a mold. And so then they create hundreds of molds. And they have a huge facility. So, for example, the facility, one of the facilities I order from is in Belmont, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. And they have a huge warehouse. It's like 400,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I order from. And I have to order by the case. So it's not like I can order a single item.
Right. So they don't even do like sample pieces or anything like that? Or?
No, now like at conventions, and we do different pottery camps and clay camps and things like that. You can get, individual items and free things and all the goodies that you would normally get at a convention or, an expo.
Yeah. Well, if anybody goes by, I have my eye on, they have an outhouse birdhouse right now that really caught my attention the other day. So if anybody wants to make me a gift, just saying. So let everybody know where they can find you, Facebook, social media, website, all that information.
So everything is just Paint and Fun Ceramics. That's PAINT, the letter N. FUN Ceramics. Same thing with our website. It's paintandfunceramics.com. We're located right inside the mall, just outside of Dick's Sporting Goods, across the hall from New River Community College. So come and see us. Come have a good time. Bring your friends, or just come by yourself for a quiet afternoon. We have a little corner table in the very back that a lot of individuals come in that just want to decompress, and they'll go sit in that corner and paint for a couple hours.
Cool. Any final thoughts you want to leave people with?
Just remember that art connects people, and we are the most fun place in the NRV to create memories with the people that you love.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Terri, for being here today. Thank you, listeners, for listening in. We will see you all next week with a new episode. But in the meantime, make sure you go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.